Hey y'all, what's going on? It's me, your girl, Antoinette, mom, entrepreneur, and manifestation expert, and I want to say good morning. I want to welcome you to what will be episode 16 of Boss Talk Conversation. And today I wanted to come on and I really wanted to talk about what do you do when your priorities compete with each other? Like, what do you do? What does that look like? And how I came about this topic is because on my Instagram, I people are really active with me on Instagram, especially through my stories. And I asked the question, I asked, what is the biggest challenge that people have with time management, right? I've been talking about time management, and I had got a lot of responses, and I'm going to respond to each response that I got individually in a video, because I'm like, if one person has this challenge, then I'm sure other people have this challenge and they're going to benefit from this as well. So one of the people who responded, they stated that the challenge that they have with time management is competing priorities. And honestly, I never heard it put like that before, so I had to begin thinking. I was like, what does that look like? So I did ask her, I did want to dig a little deeper, and it didn't get really too deep with it, but so I began to ask myself, like, what does that look like for me? What does it look like for me to have competing priorities? Or have I even ever experienced that in my life? So as I began to think, like, think back, I had to think, and I said, yeah, I just actually dealt with that the other day. I literally just dealt with that. So here's how it looked like for me, and maybe you can relate. So the other day, I had a training, right? So I have a business, I have the stand. So I was informed of a training for food managers in the city of Wilmington. So it was the third meeting on Tuesday of last week. Also on Tuesday of last week, right? So that's an important task, right? And something that was a priority to me. So then also last week on Tuesday, I joined not joined, but I was accepted into the Ella Baker's Black Organizers group in Wilmington, right? So I was accepted into that group, and it was the first meeting on Tuesday, and it was happening at the same time. So I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? So that's a situation, an example where you have two things that are important to you, and now they are competing with each other. And if you have a situation like that happen, what are you going to do? Like, how do you decide? What do you do? So then I began to think some more. So I'm like, how else has this happened to me? Because, wow, this is something that happens, right? So I'm like, how else has this happened to me? How has this shown up in my life? So I remember when I used to work traditionally, and this is one of the main reasons why I fight so hard to be my own boss, is because I like spending time with my family. So I remember working traditionally and having to, like, really having to choose of whether I have to work or whether I want to go spend time with my family for a holiday, or do I want to go to the field trip, because I'm real big on field trips. Like, when I was younger, I always wanted my mom to go on my field trips with me, and sometimes she could and sometimes she could not, and it was like more often than not that she couldn't go on the trip with me. So I always said, if I had kids, I'm going on all the field trips. So that's something that I would want to do. But I have found myself battling with whether or not I want to go on a field trip, or do I want to work, or, and that's something that when priorities compete with each other. So we as people, we deal with this often as well. Hey Ash, good morning. Good morning. So we as people, we deal with this too. So sometimes we got to deal with, do we want to work, or do we want to travel, or do we have to work, or do we have to travel? Do we have to budget? Because sometimes we have the money to travel, but is it really worth spending the money when we think about our long-term goals and things that we're trying to achieve. Now, I'm not talking about my friends or nothing, but I have an example of this because the other day, my friends called me and they like, girl, we want to go to Atlanta for Thanksgiving and all this. And I'm like, yo, I can't do that right now. Like, y'all can do that right now, but I can't do that right now. Like, yes, I have the money in my little kitty if I really want to do it, but that's not something I can do right now. So it's important for me to spend time with my friends, but it's also important for me to reach these financial goals, right? So I know I'm not the only one that had to deal with that, right? Sometimes we even got to choose between sleep and working. Sometimes we got to work them extra shifts and them extra hours. Sometimes we got to choose between sleep and learning these extra skills because we still got goals that we want to reach, even though our schedules are so packed and so full and so overwhelming. But it's still personal things that we have to accomplish. And sometimes our sleep is what we have to like really choose between, like what's important, right? So when you have these situations happen, how do you decide? How do you prioritize? And I want to share with you 4 questions that you can begin to use in your life today that can support you in making decisions that make you happy, that can support you in making decisions that's going to really support you in the long term. All right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So one of the questions that you want to ask yourself is, out of all these tasks, when you're having these tasks that competing with each other, one of the things that you want to ask yourself is, out of all these tasks, what is going to be the task that's going to get me closer to my ultimate goal? And I talk to y'all about goals all the time. What is it that you ultimately want to accomplish out of your life? Because if you are battling and you are struggling with choosing between work and family, right? For me, family is important to me. Like, I want to spend time with my family. So when I would have to choose between work and family, right, I would have to make decisions like, okay, sometimes when I would get a job, I would already have dates already scheduled because that's how important that's how important family is to me. So you have to know what your ultimate goals are, and then you want to make decisions that align with your ultimate goals at the end of the day. Like the other day when I'm talking about choosing between going to Atlanta with my friends, or do I want to make these goals where I want to have this business and I want to get these properties, right? I'm thinking long term now. I'm not thinking short term. So yeah, I could spend my money right now to go to Atlanta, but it doesn't make sense long term. So I had to really voice that. And I love my friends because what they say, girl, I already know. And it makes sense for all of us. Like, we all decided as a whole that we're going to move forward and just do it another time. So that was awesome with that. But it really works when you want to think about the ultimate goals that you have in mind. The second question that you want to ask yourself is, which task, when you are choosing, when you have to decide, you want to ask yourself, which task would have the greatest negative impact on your life right now, right? So I gave the example earlier when I was talking about when I had to choose between the food training program or the food manager's training program or the Ella Baker program, right? Black Organizers program. So I had to really choose what did I think would have the negative impact on my life. So I had to break it down. I had to think about it. So when I thought about the food managers training program, first of all, it was already the 3rd session, right? And then all of those sessions was being recorded and I already had the notebook. So I didn't think that was going to have too much of a greater negative impact on my life because I already was going to have the tools I needed to, get the information, and I have that resource. They already said if you can't make it, they want you to make it, but if you can't make it, just know that we're here as a resource. But then I had the Ella Baker Black Community Organizers event. And that was something that I was accepted into. Like, I had to interview for that, and, you had to commit to those 8 sessions. That is from 6 to 9, 8 sessions, and they expect you to be there. And, I gave my word that I'm going to be there, and it was the first session. And these recordings or these meetings are not being recorded. So I had to think about all of that, right? So when I thought about all of that, I decided that what would have the greatest negative impact on my life for right now and the long term was me missing the Ella Baker's community organizing event, if that makes sense, right? Because that's something that I committed my time to, and I already said that's what I'm going to do. So when you are having these decisions and you got to decide what you're going to do, you want to ask yourself, what is going to have the greatest negative impact on my life right now, right? So the third question is, when you having these priorities that compete with each other, whether it be a family, and sometimes it can be self and other people, because I feel like I'm in a place right now where that is one of my biggest competitions right now. Like I am so focused on self right now, but I also know the importance of relationships, and you need people. You can't be by yourself. God says you need at least 2 people, so you can't be bundled up in your room by yourself going through what you're going through. Like, you need friends, you need family, you need support. Like, and I know that, but I also know that I like being by myself. So it's a challenge that I do struggle with all the time. But one of the things that you have to ask yourself, that came from, but one of the things you have to ask yourself is, what will be the result if I do not get this done today? Right? You having these things that compete with each other. So say for instance, one of the things that I have realized, so because of this, I'm focused on time management, because everybody in my tribe, the people that I'm working with, are saying that they need more time. They don't know where their time is going. So I've been working with my people, helping them to find more time in their days and their week. So because we're working on it as a whole, I've been doing my Plan Your Next 24, right? So with doing my Plan Your Next 24, I'm really realizing the value of your time, my time, first of all, right? But I'm also realizing what will happen if I don't complete a task at the time that I say I'm going to do it. So on Tuesday, for instance, I had a full day. Like, I had to use my Plan Your Next 24 to really like map out my hours, because I had a lot going on. So I told myself earlier that day that I wanted to do my household chores in the morning, because I had all these meetings in the afternoon. So as the morning time comes, I'm like, oh my God, I really don't even feel like doing it. I'm just going to do it later. So because I did my Plan Your Next 24, as I began to think about what I had to do later, and I seen the time literally mapped out on the worksheet, I'm like, the only way that I could really literally realistically do this later is after 9 o'clock, when I'm really going to be tired, right? So that's a priority. That's things that compete, because I'm talking about, do I want to rest? Do I want to do dishes because I like a clean house? But I also do like to sleep. But then when I think about the long-term effect of this thing, sleeping, I'm going to sleep later. Period. Right? But I'm not going to have time to clean my house later, which means I'm going to have to wake up to a dirty house tomorrow. And do I really want that? Is it really worth it for me to get a 15-20 minute nap in? Like, that's the conversations that I began to have with myself, all by me doing my Plan Your Next 24, but also with those competing priorities, because you have to think, what will be the result if you don't get something done today? So that's another question that you want to ask yourself when you are competing with things that you want to do. And then last but not least, y'all, and I think this was really valuable. I think this was really one of the most valuable things, because I had to research this, no lie. So one of the things that you want to ask yourself is, what tasks require my immediate attention? And there's a process that you can actually go through to figure out what tasks require your immediate attention, right? Because I think sometimes, a lot of the times, we be confused. So first of all, one of the things that you have to know is there's a difference between like tasks that are like literally urgent and important. So I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to be quick with it, right? Because I don't want this video to be all long. But what I was researching was, that's you now. So I'm going to, hopefully this information is going to be valuable to you, Ash. So when I was doing some research, it's called the Eisenhower principle, right? And this is what you have to do. There's 4 categories. So one of the things is urgent and important activities. So those activities, there's only 2 types of urgent and important activities, right? So when you think about urgent and important activities, those activities are those things that happen out of the blue, right? That's urgent and important. That's things that you didn't even foresee happening. Like, it just happens. Those are like those tragic things that happen. Those are those things that you didn't know, right? The other urgent and important activities are those things that you hold off until the last minute. So they start out being important, but they become urgent because now the deadline is coming up and now you got to rush to get it done. So that's where that procrastination comes in. So that's that one category, the urgent and important category. So those things happen out of the blue, and those are the things that you decide to do last minute. So in that category, there's a few things that you can do to eliminate the things that you decide to do at the last minute. Because at the end of the day, we can't do nothing about the things that happen out of the blue, but try to prepare in advance. But we can't do nothing about the things that happen out of the blue. But we can do something about the things that we hold off until the last minute. That's all on you. So what you can do is you can begin to plan ahead. That's all about proper planning, right? One of my things that my husband used to say is proper planning prevents poor performance, period, right? So if you are somebody who have a lot of urgent and important activities, you have to now look at your planning process, right? And that's what I help people do. I help people plan their best lives. I help people come up with an action plan, right? So then you also have those activities that are important but not urgent activities, right? So these important but not urgent activities, these activities, they help you to achieve your personal goals. They help you to achieve your professional goals, whatever those goals are for you. Always focus on your goals. So in the beginning, I was talking about you got to keep them ultimate goals always in hindsight 2020. Everything that you do every day is always to support you in getting the ultimate goals that you want for yourself, right? So your important activities are those activities that's going to support you in getting what it is that you want out of life, okay? They are important, but they're not urgent, right? They're not urgent. So urgent task, but not important task. Now, this is what I thought was really deep when I was reading the Eisenhower principle, and that's what I'm discussing right now, right? And this is how you can decide what task to focus on, right? Because everything doesn't require our attention, right? And we got to decide what's important, what's urgent, and what we got to do about it, right? So we have those urgent but not important tasks, and those are the tasks, although they are urgent, they prevent us from achieving our goals, right? Because our important tasks are the tasks that support us in reaching our goals, those professional goals, those personal goals. But it is our urgent tasks, those things that just pop up out of the blue, right? Those are the things that prevent us from getting to our goals. So you got to be able to identify those things that are urgent and what is important. Urgent pops up out of the blue. Important tasks get you to your goals, get you to your professional goals, your personal goals, right? So when you have those things that just pop up out of the blue, right? There's things that you can do about those things that pop up out of the blue, right? Now, some things are just tragic, like I said. But if it's not so tragic and there's things that just pop up out of the blue, you can either reschedule those tasks, right? Or you can delegate those tasks, right? So your urgent tasks that just pop up out of the blue, you either reschedule them or you delegate them. So when I think about this, I think about us as parents, us as moms. I feel like moms and dads and us as parents, we have a lot of rules, but I'm going to speak to my moms because moms, we do a lot sometimes. And I don't want to, I feel like in my home, we have a good 50-50 balance. But I know as moms, we do a lot. We think about a lot. We focus on a lot. And we be having a lot on our plate. We really, really do. And things pop up all the time. Things pop up all the time in our life. But we also got our own important personal goals that we're working towards that we want to achieve on our own. But us being moms and us being bosses and us having all these roles, we have to take care of everything and everybody, it seems like. And I think about my mom in this instance. And I think about myself. But I be feeling like when you're a mom, sometimes everybody calls on you to do everything. So because everybody calls on you everything, you feel like you gotta stop what you're doing, the things that you're doing for self, to meet the needs of everybody else. And that's not cool. Like, that's not cool. When those things come up, like, for instance, this is what I was going to say. So with my brothers and sisters, so like I said, I'm always a firm believer. Like, I like being around my family. And growing up, it was a necessity. Like, I'm the oldest. My youngest sister is 13 years younger than me. And then my mom had 2 more after that. So my youngest sister is 17 years younger than me, right? So when I was younger, I did a lot for them. So as I was growing up, I valued doing all that I could for them. So, but now that they're older, it can be a lot because they playing sports, they doing this, they all over the place. It's a beautiful thing to see, but I got my own stuff going on, right? I still got to handle me, so I can't be here and there everywhere. And then they calling you at the last minute, think you gonna drop everything. And me being the person that I am, I'll drop some things for my family because I care about my family so much. But then that can be exhausting, right? So I had to create some boundaries. So one of the boundaries that I had to create for myself was that, listen, y'all, I love y'all so much, but if you tell me about something on the date that is happening, I'm not coming. I'm not coming, because that's so inconsiderate, because I'm going to try my best to be there even though I got my own stuff going on, right? And that was like some of the best things that I could have done for myself. And sometimes they follow it, sometimes they don't, but it still makes me feel like I put that boundary in place, because that's something I had to delegate in my life, right? That's something that I had to delegate. So, because if not, they'll come in, because it's all important to them. But that's just an urgent task to me that they're just trying to place on me. So that's one thing that I had to do. Or you can always reschedule. Some people try to come in and want you to drop things at the drop of a dime. You can say, no, not this time, but next time. And be confident in that, right? So then the last task is the last category. So we had the urgent and important tasks, right? We talked about that. That's one category. And then we have the important but not urgent tasks. And that's, to me, the most valuable category right here. That focuses on you. And then we have the not important but urgent tasks, right? That's a distraction. The urgent but not important tasks, those tasks can be delegated. But then we have the not important and then the not urgent tasks. And those are the activities that come up that are just a distraction. Like, if you are writing your list out of the things and all the activities that you have to complete for the day, and these activities are not important, but they're also not urgent, then what are you doing them for? They don't help you. Like, your important tasks help you to be who you want to be. Your important tasks help you to achieve what it is that you want to achieve, who you want to be ultimately, right? Your urgent tasks are the things that just pop up that, that you got to just delegate, reschedule, or whatever the case may be, but you're really focused on them important tasks that's going to support you in being the best that you can be, right? So this is a strategy that you can use when you are literally trying to figure out where you should focus on. You're going to be focusing on them important tasks. That's what you should be focusing on. And sometimes we struggle with focusing on our important tasks because our important tasks focus on our goals. And some of us don't have goals. And that's where y'all struggle, right? So fortunately, you have me, right? I support people in developing their visions and creating goals that align with their vision so they can take action in their life. That's what I do, because that's what I do for myself, and that's what I enjoy helping others do, because it's just like, do you know the greatness that you have in you? Like, that's what I like to let people know. Like, you can do anything you say you want to do. You can do anything you put your mind to. Like, you can do anything you are willing to work towards. You can do and be anything that you want to be. You can be anything that you see. Like, that's what I enjoy, bringing the vision out of people. So I left the link in the description box around here somewhere, that if you are ready to start a process that's going to support you in literally designing and living your best life from start to fruition, from vision to fruition, right? I'm your girl. I can support you in doing that. I encourage you to follow me on social media, and I definitely, my social media on Instagram is Antoinette Develops. This page, Antoinette Develops All. I do have a private Facebook group, Boss Talk Conversations. I also have my podcast. I left that link too, Boss Talk Conversations. Please check me out and also engage with me, because say if you might be skeptical of working with me one-on-one, or you might not can't afford it right now, which is okay. I'm always asking questions on my social media, on my page, because I want to know how I can, like, the content that I need to create to support you in achieving your goals, whether we are talking one-on-one or not. But this is the opportunity for us to talk one-on-one. You know, like, if you're having goals, if you're having obstacles, if you, whatever it is that you have, like, you have to talk to somebody. You got to talk to somebody. God said all you need is two, right? So hopefully the information that I shared with you today was valuable. I really, really hope so. Today we talked about, what does it look like when your priorities compete with each other? But then I also shared with you 4 questions that you can ask yourself that can support you in making decisions that you feel good about. Like, making decisions that you feel good about. That's what today's episode was about. I'm actually about to go live on Instagram to discuss the same thing. So if you want to join me over there, you can if you missed something. And if not, that's okay too. Out of this episode and that episode, or out of this conversation and that conversation, one of these conversations are going to be episode 16 on Boss Talk Conversations. So if you can't watch it all right now, it's okay, because all you got to do is go to Boss Talk Conversation, maybe like tomorrow, and this conversation will be on there. And I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you to everybody who joined in with me today. I appreciate you, and I love y'all so, so, so much.